All right. What's up, everybody? Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Iyad. I'm the lead content marketer here at Trusted Tech Team, and I'll be guiding you through this webinar experience alongside my amazing teammates here, Blake and Chad. We're super excited to have this conversation. I mean, the last few months have been crazy. We've had ChatGPT come out, and then Bing, Bing Chat came out, and then Google had Bart, and now we have GPT-4, and Meta is reportedly working on their own AI, and it's insane. You know, all of these new releases are coming in packed with insane capabilities, things that we've only seen in sci-fi. And you know, here at Trust Tech Team, we like to stay ahead of the curve. So we are going to share with you some stories on how we've implemented ChatGPT here in our internal operations. You know, I'll give you some tips, some tricks to help you advance in your own careers. And with that, I'll start it off with a round of introductions. Blake, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Of course, my name is Blake Wilson. I'm an Azure architect here on our professional services team. My role here is to help businesses develop and implement cloud solutions with Azure. What that means is I do consulting and project work. And one of my favorite parts is listening to companies' pain points and finding a solution or building a solution that solves those pain points. And I love it so much when I can find a solution that they're already paying for in their licensing. So it's, at the end of the day, it's not costing them anymore, and they're getting so much more functionality out of their environment. Chad?
Awesome. I'm Chad Seymour. I'm technical account manager and sales engineer here. My role is to coordinate with our clients, make sure they're buying the proper license, make sure everything's consolidated, they're spending exactly what they need to, and they're getting the right product for the job. Um, Everything from finding the most cost-effective and efficient way for a client to license their tenant, communicate with their customers as well as our business, and just constantly working to improve the ecosystem for Microsoft as well as our partners.
Sweet. Thank you, guys. Now, before we dive in any further, I just want to remind everyone that if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the comment section. We will be designating sometimes toward the end of this webinar to answer these questions. So stick with us for that. We will also be announcing the winner of the $500 Amazon gift card. So stick with us for that as well. Now, what is ChatGPT? I know that pretty sure that most of you have used it before. But for those of you who have been taking a break from, you know, civilization, I actually pulled up a definition of ChatGPT from ChatGPT itself. And it says ChatGPT stands for Chatbot Generative Pre-trained Transformer, which is an advanced language model developed by OpenAI. It leverages deep learning techniques and a massive amount of text data to understand and generate human-like text responses. The primary purpose of ChatGPT is to engage in conversation with users, providing contextually relevant and coherent answers to questions or prompts. It can be used for generating content, code, recommendations, and more. And the best part is it keeps on learning. So the more you use it, the better it becomes. And as you've probably seen, you know, this thing has been making huge waves, and Chad knows all about that. He's been on top of its development since day one. Chad, why don't you tell us a little bit about how businesses have been using ChatGPT in their operations?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something we could talk about forever. Microsoft
Mhm.
has recently invested about $10 billion into this specific OpenAI, you know, large text chat transformer. Some of the ways that we use it here at Trusted Tech Team, and some of the ways our clients are looking forward to using it with Microsoft Copilot coming out on the horizon, is just it starts with customer service. Um, it's really one of the most straightforward areas where ChatGPT shines. You're allowed to have more productive and easier conversations with customers by taking the text that you would normally send, kind of running it through the bot to get the most relevant and succinct answer to a customer. And it's not perfect. It is ever growing, like you had mentioned. There's incidents already where customer service bots have been manipulated into processing refunds for something that didn't actually qualify. So there is a piece of it where it does have to continually be monitored by us and improved. We're not at the point where AI is taking over the world. Um, the other benefit to it is just enhancing productivity. Drafting emails, going over product reviews, stuff that would normally take some in-depth research, some anecdotal knowledge, and just a time-consuming effort. With the proper Chat GPT experience and integration with the system, you're talking you can take an hour's worth of work and condense it down into 5 or 10 minutes. This isn't always the case, but I mean, you're talking when it does become relevant and it is applicable, you're saving, one, or 5/6 of your time. um, Another thing that we like to talk about is, what do you actually use it for? Everyone sees ChatGPT, and besides their random queries into the text box itself, you kind of have to ask yourself, what are we going to use this for? There's a lot of existing solutions out there that you can use to kind of automate workloads, everything from chatbots to file processing and automation, reading, security formats and analytics. And I think as time goes on, this is a solution that's going to keep growing. That's why you've seen Microsoft invest so much money in it, because OpenAI has demonstrated how well it can do the same thing a human can, and with the right, tutelage and manipulation, it just makes everything a little bit better. And then, if you don't see an existing solution out there, it's one of the best tools to use is ChatGPT itself to kind of teach yourself based off the knowledge you already have and how fast it can gather the knowledge that you would need to create a custom solution. Your company can kind of sit down, get together, see if you have the internal resources, or even pay an external company. And once you know the product that you want, ChatGPT can definitely help you figure out how to implement it, create it, and get it to market.
Yeah, no, it's definitely helpful. They just got to iron out some of the issues. I actually saw a funny meme yesterday. Someone posted their conversation with ChatGPT, and they asked it, "What are some popular piracy websites?" And its answer was, as an obviously as an AI language model, I don't condone or promote piracy, but it's if you want, um, you know, the person actually, a human, responded and they said, as an if I want to avoid piracy websites, which specific sites I should avoid most? And
That's
that's when
awesome.
ChatGPT listed like the sites. It's crazy. I mean, they're gonna keep iterating on it and improving it until it gets to a point where it can really become even more powerful than it is. We have used it to personalize messages, like communication messages, customer experiences, and that's where the ATAI method came in. That we've developed here at TCC. It's actually a method that you can use without AI, but it's much faster when you use an AI like ChatGPT with it. And it stands for analysis, testing, analysis, and implementation. So you want to analyze the data that you have, whether it's sales data, engagement data, whatever it is that you're using for your business. And then based off of that, you test it out. So you get some insights using ChatGPT, and then based off of that, you test out the recommendations that you're given by this AI. And then after that, you want to do another round of analysis to make sure, was there any improvement? Did everything work as intended? Um, and then after that, you want to implement the insights that you've gained after you've had enough time to generate some trends, enough data to analyze further. And then after that, you want to implement whatever system that you've created. And one good way to do this is to actually pair ChatGPT, or at least OpenAI's API, with Zapier. Zapier, if you've been following Zapier, they've been releasing a lot of new updates that leverage ChatGPT. And we've actually included a guide that I'm going to be posting in the comments section. So make sure to download that guide. It goes through step by step how to use Zapier with OpenAI. So now, Blake, we want to touch a little bit on the power of Azure AI. What can you tell us about that?
Thank you, Ian. Yeah, so as Chad mentioned earlier, Microsoft has already heavily invested in OpenAI and become one of their primary partners. And we're already seeing these integrations. We can see ChatGPT and Bing. Most people are already using it there. And that's kind of one of the most popular areas where you can use it already in a Microsoft product. Uh, he also mentioned about Copilot, and I believe Iad's going to talk about Copilot a little bit later, but I'll tease it. It's bringing ChatGPT into the Office 365 environment, so all of your Word, Excel, Teams, everything is going to have some integration with that, and I'm super excited for that. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. But Microsoft already has a lot of AI tools. One of their most impressive AI tools is Azure Cognitive Services. And what that does is it allows you to tie um, AI backing into custom software that you're building. So things like voice, text, pictures. If you're doing any sort of recognition or analysis of it, you can utilize Microsoft's AI backend, and they're right now it's in preview, but they are utilizing ChatGPT to also do that backing. So if you're doing voice, you can do text to speech, you can do transcription, translation if you're talking in different languages, and have real-time environments of that. If you have a custom chatbot that you want to build or are currently utilizing, you can use it to analyze conversations, to do question answering, kind of like what they were mentioned about customer service is Microsoft already gives those options if you want to build a solution. And ChatGPT, doing the whole neural network that they have behind it, is going to be integrated very soon. It's already in preview, and I cannot wait for public release for that so we can kind of see how much better those chatbots get with this whole neural network behind them and just the language models, right? That's what ChatGPT is all about, is just being able to communicate in plain speak to a computer, right?
Yeah.
So another place is picture recognition, doing image recognition, content analysis. I was working with a client where they are a manufacturing plant, and they take pictures of every single product that comes down the manufacturing line, and they're piping those pictures into the Azure Cognitive Service to actually verify that everything that they produce has all of the aspects of the product, that nothing's missing. And if it passes that verification, it continues down the pipeline. If it doesn't pass, it gets kicked off the conveyor, right? So those are some of those models that you can utilize today, but once they have that integration with ChatGPT actually launched, we're going to have so much more meat to the bone on that, about having better models, better abilities that they have. um, like I said, this is all super new technology, and Microsoft is adopting it very quickly. But this is all speculation, but two places that I want to see integration with ChatGPT is Azure Purview and the Power Platform. And so what Purview is it used to be the Compliance Center in Office 365, and it just got renamed. It's funny, as I was like looking at it earlier today, they still have Compliance Center, and it's still being renamed. But what that is if you are subject to any compliance regulations, such as like GDPR, HIPAA compliant, you know that your data needs to be secure, needs to be identified. You need to be, there's a lot of restrictions on what data can be stored, how it can be handled. And it there's a lot of pain points when we come to that, and it's such a critical piece of being in business as a whole, really. But some of those common pain points is just, where do I start, because it is such a big problem to tackle. Understanding what compliance standards that my company needs to meet. What does that actually mean? When you're reading these compliance standards, they're really confusing, to be perfectly honest. And then, like, what data do I need to detect? How do I handle false positives and false negatives? These are all things that Microsoft is already trying to solve, but it could be better. Like, they have They have a compliance score that you can easily track as far as like what needs to happen. But when you are diving into it, you can just feel so lost when you get started. And so that's where I'm really hoping that ChatGPT enters the conversation for Purview, is just having people be able to have these conversations and break down what actually needs to be secured and how it works. Because when you're reading through those Microsoft Learn pages, it's a lot, right? So I'm really hoping that we can utilize that to understand what compliances are needed for my company, what data needs to be secured, and when it actually builds the policies that are monitoring your data, it can do it kind of automatically. And like I said, Microsoft's already doing that, but with the current models that they are using to analyze your data, there's a lot of false positives and negatives because they don't understand all of human interactions. They're just kind of looking for whatever key indicators of, oh, this is 9 characters long. It's got to be a phone number, right? Or it's got to be a social security number. So being able to actually read a document in full and understand, okay, this is the person's name. I need to erase that for HIPAA compliance, or this is a social security number. I need to mark that information as sensitive. So that's where I'm really excited to see it happen. And then not just with the Microsoft Purview, which is the Office 365 side, there's also now Azure Purview, which is a rather new offering where you can take all of those compliance labels and sensitivity labels that you build in the Office side and transpose them across your entire environment, whether it's Azure or even on-prem, which is really cool. So you can have the Azure Purview model scan your on-prem file shares and label your data the same way, so you have one organized structure of maintaining data compliance. And I think if we are able to integrate that with the ChatGPT to uh, automate set to help get set up quicker and to have a better understanding of what data you have and where it's stored, and what you need to do with it to be compliant, and all of those little features where if you were trying to look at all of your data, it would be impossible, right? So being able to just really have a solid understanding of your information and wherever it lives, whether it's in your emails, whether it's in OneDrive, whether it's in an on-prem file share, an Azure SQL server, you know, all of those different places can kind of be pulled together. And like I said, a lot of this they already have, but I'm super excited to see about how much better it's going to be with these integrations. Another, like I mentioned, the other place that I'm super excited to see the the integrations that are going to be coming down the pipeline. And this one, I just heard the other day that they are in alpha with, is the Power Platform. So Power BI, Power Automate, Power Apps. Power Automate was the one specifically that I heard that they are testing uh, OpenAI integration with. But what the whole Power Platform is uh, it, trying to automate tasks or provide better insight into data, or build apps. That's what they all kind of break down to. And as the name kind of suggests, right now it's built for power users or IT, really. And uh, there's some really awesome things that you can do to automate your day, automate your workflow, or build really awesome reports. And I am excited to see how Ch- ChatGPT is going to integrate with that and make it so that whole platform isn't just for power users, but it's for average users, where an average user can go in and say, "Hey, I have this task that I need to do. How can I automate it?" Or and have it build into Power Automate and build a flow and do like kind of iterative learning where you say, okay, it didn't quite work here, make this change. Because Microsoft, kind of the same way, Microsoft already has some of these features of being able to like just kind of say what you want, or like um, define what your app is going to look like, or what the flow is going to look like. But if they don't get it right the first time, you're then kind of stuck in, okay, now I'm in the platform and I have to make the changes myself. I would really love to see be able to use the same way that you talk to ChatGPT and have it do iterative changes to your apps or your flows or your um, reports to get exactly what your end user is looking for. Very similar to if you engage a consultant like me to build it out, where you mention what you want to do, and then your consultant provides you with the app, and you're like, oh no, that's not actually what I want to do. I want to make these changes, and you make those changes. And I think ChatGPT can really uh, take what the user wants and turn it into a solution with one of these Power BI, Power Automate, Power Apps. So that's what I'm super excited to see. And if the rumor I heard that Power Automate's already in alpha, I cannot wait.
Yeah.
You know, I want to talk about some other times when I've used ChatGPT, because you mentioned uh, getting to getting to your pirating, right? I mean, not you personally, but the story you heard. But uh, the other week, was writing a PowerShell script, um, and I was getting stuck, and I knew exactly what I wanted. I had the script could that could target what I wanted. It just wasn't formatting it right, and I was working really hard to get it to format the response as something that I could actually use, because I had a very specific use case and I was going to pipe it back in to PowerShell to automate something else. Whole story, but um, I'd been banging my head against the wall of trying to build this PowerShell script, and I just wasn't getting it. And then finally, I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna use ChatGPT, and I'm gonna use it as it is now, as it is today, where I'm just, I literally went into it and typed said, here's the script that I have, here's the response that I want. And then I was like, I want to make this one change. And so I removed a little bit, I removed like parentheses out of the response. And I just kind of kept saying, okay, I want to make this one change and one change. And so I had like Chat GPT up in one window and PowerShell. And I was running the PowerShell script that it was giving me and seeing the answers and being like, this is the answer I got, but I want to remove, the commas here. And so I really refined it down just iteratively of one change at a time until I got the exact PowerShell that I was wanting. And I'd been trying to get it working right for a week or two, and it did it in 10, 20 minutes. It was pretty insane. The one thing to note about doing things like that, where I'm going to ChatGPT's website and putting it in putting in dummy data, right? I'm not giving corporate data because we're not quite there yet, and I'm there's some security concerns about using corporate data. So that was one thing that I just wanted to know, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. But some other use cases that Trusted Tech Team has done is we we actually are utilizing it now to monitor our tickets, and not monitor them and answer them, but just monitor them for mood and sentiment to see, is this person, when he's first reaching out to us, is he happy about his engagement because he's finally getting support, or is he upset about his this ticket because
Mm.
he's tried everything and nothing is working and Microsoft is terrible, right? um, and seeing how the mood changes as the engagement goes, uh, and monitoring the entire life of the ticket and just seeing, okay, as we engage this client of ours, is the interaction getting better? Is it getting worse? And it's allowed us to really tag our tickets and understand when people are going from a good experience to a bad experience, because that's something that we need to review and change and say, okay, we need to change our process flow because you know we're giving this person a bad experience, right? Or highlight times when we take somebody who came in upset, and then when they finish their interaction, they're happy about it, and be like, okay, this was a great interaction. We need to do more of these. So that was one use case. When we first started coming into ChatGPT, we we were just kind of like looking at what are some like use cases for it, and we actually took our entire sales pitch and piped it into ChatGPT and said, hey, we are very technical people. We talk with a lot of jargon. We want to rewrite our sales pitch for comprehension, so people understand us, because we do this day in, day out. We talk about licensing. It's second nature to us. We forget how complicated the topics that we are talking about are sometimes. So we're just, hey, AI, rewrite this in the most basic speak you can so everyone can understand us. And our sales increased like 10% when we did that, just because people could understand what we were doing, what we were selling, what benefit it was going to give to them.
That's
Uh,
awesome. I want to cover one topic here real quick. Something that Damon just mentioned. When you were talking about Power Automate, it seems like a black hole of privacy issues when implementing. This is something we've noticed. I wanted to bring an example of a real life use case where we had to, like, it's a great use case, but it's very difficult to implement just because of privacy. Like, for example, let's say you're a project manager, right? And you want to report on what your team has been doing for the past 30 days. If you're using something like Asana or ClickUp, you can essentially have your team members leave comments on their task when they close them. So this is the task, it's finished. Here are the results. We've had XYZ results. And then towards the end of the month, you can export these comments. That's something we've tested out and it works beautiful. The only concern was that, if you have like sensitive data in there, you want to make sure you either don't implement them, which would defeat the purpose of the report, or you're just very careful about how you go about this. And then, you export all these comments towards the end of the month, and then you give it to ChatGPT and ask it to write a report on what the team has been doing for the past 30 days, highlight the top achievements, and then it'll write that report for you. This is like one use case. I mentioned Excel is another one, data analysis. Just going over some real life use cases, as our audience here are asking. Excel, I like Excel. There's one issue with it is sometimes if you're not someone that uses it every day and you want to implement a formula, you want to do something very tricky, the go-to solution, at least for me, is to just Google it, right? And then you'll find someone on Reddit or somewhere else that have the solution for you. The issue with that is that you have to know exactly what you're looking for so that your keywords on Google will get you the result that you're looking for. But with something like ChatGPT, you can just talk to it like you're talking to a friend. Like, hey, I'm trying to do this with my data. I'm trying to get this list of emails. Someone has their first initial last name. I want to make sure I'm matching this data correctly. Can you give me the formula? And then it'll give you something like, index and match, whatever it is that you're trying to do. I found that to be very helpful. Now, how to give the best prompt, because the prompt, giving the right prompt the right way is everything. If you just ask it like a simple question, hey, give me this, it'll answer you on the same level that you're asking it. So you want to make sure you give your prompt in the best way so that you get the best answer. So we found that the best way to do this is to first give it some context. What are you trying to do? Set the goal. I'm trying to analyze this list, and then give it, tell it, you're an expert data analyst. Say that. When you say that, it has the right context. You're an expert data analyst, and you want to analyze this list of data. What is the best way to do this? And it'll tell you. Another way to do this is to make it your prompt engineer. So you ask it, I'm trying to solve this problem. I'm trying to build a simple app that does X, Y, and Z. Can you tell me what is the best way to do this, or what are the questions that I need to ask my engineer to build this code? And it'll give you these steps, and then you take every step and then you ask it. So this sounds a little bit abstract. So I'm going to add a link to a guide that we put together that walks you through these steps in more detail. Make sure to download this. I'm going to post these as links on our LinkedIn comment section here. Again, with security being a big issue, there are probably other things to consider when you're working with ChatGPT. So, Chad, I want to ask you, what are some best practices that people need to have when integrating ChatGPT into their systems? And if there's anything that relates to Azure, we can also cover that as well.
Yeah, I mean, ChatGPT, just treat it as another user in your organization. I mean, follow role-based access controls. Make sure that the data that it's being allowed to touch is exactly what you intend for it to do. Dustin in the chat brings up a good point that, Azure OpenAI Studio sandbox models. I mean, so now you're dealing with your own, private sandbox. The data in there isn't going to leave. So that's a good way to isolate your data, kind of create a silo. So ChatGPT, if it does get a hold of something and executes a strategy you have intended for it incorrectly, it's not widespread throughout your entire organization. And then it also boils down to, the critical thinking and the skills of those who are working to implement it. Um, like you said, the prompt and how you format what you ask it is going to change your return and the request being answered by the GPT AI. And at the end of the day, like you said, there's a lot of ways to ask the same question, but prompting it and formatting it in the right way is going to be as paramount to security as it is to actually getting what you want out of your interactions with this, AI program that's been created. Um, there's tons of tools in the security workspace that they're already integrating ChatGPT into. Um, there's analytics, how it detects activity alerts. It's capable of preventing what they call, alert fatigue, which is, if anyone's ever worked in the space, you just get so many logs and so many alerts that you don't have the ability to decipher through which ones are important. Well, I mean, that's the idea is, with this AI model, it's iterative learning. So as you create an integration for AI with your, SIEM or your security platforms, as time goes on, it's going to get better and better, and it's going to prevent fatigue within your own workforce. Uh, whether or not you can justify that with dollar signs attached to it, I mean, efficiency always has a cost. A penny saved is a penny earned. So when you're talking about your task force being able to, traditionally throughout time, technology allows you to do stuff more efficiently, so you can do more with less. I think that's kind of what you're seeing AI be the spearheading event or the catalyst for is the ability for someone to produce more than they could without it, and I believe that's where we're heading. Um, that's kind of what Microsoft has positioned themselves to leverage the OpenAI concept with is not only do we know how powerful this tool is, we know that in the future the people that do use it and know how to use it are going to be more efficient than those who don't. And I would be hard pressed to find a study that says otherwise, unless you're dealing with very unique and niche knowledge that ChatGPT just isn't capable of learning yet. But I have no doubt that as time goes on and it's continually improved, that you're going to see it's kind of have its hands in just about every field and every industry that works with technology.
Yeah, there's the big question, of what do you do if your job is at risk? You're someone that does one specific thing like copywriting, or even if you're a developer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's what I've noticed. People, if you're very good at what you do, it's very difficult to replace you. So what you would do in this case is you diversify your skill set and you become the best person that could work with AI. What's going to happen essentially is that every team let's say you have a team of 5 people, moving forward, you're probably going to need a team of 3 people, and they're going to be using AI to do the job of 5 people. And those 2 people are probably underperforming. So if you feel like you're at risk, man, this is the time to shine. This is the time to be ahead of the curve. Start learning how to use this tool. I'm seeing some interesting questions here. Yeah, well, we'll be getting to those in a minute here. Blake, if there are any challenges or concerns that people, and this might, tap onto some of these questions that are coming in,
Mm-hmm.
common challenges or concerns with using ChatGPT. Can you touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, I think we've already touched on a lot of them. I would just, some things that to note is really like in its current state, ChatGPT is not 100% accurate, and the one of the best things that I've heard to explain it is that it can be confidently wrong. So it can really lead you into a false sense of security, being like, oh, it's always right. And it's always take what a machine or a Google search even is giving you with a grain of salt, and do your due diligence. Don't always just automatically pass that off is kind of my recommendation. And understand, like, right now, ChatGPT is based on a data set that is 2 years old. So it doesn't have access to the current internet, so it's not always up to date. So there are a lot of limitations of the system as it is now. And as the as it develops, it's going to remove a lot of those limitations as we pipe it into Azure, or Microsoft gets its hands on it with Bing. It's going to remove a lot of those limitations, and it is going to get better. It's going to get more correct, but we are still kind of at its infancy. So just understand that, like, use it as a springboard, but don't use it as your end all be all, is kind of the first thing to say. Is, you know, it is still on us to do our due diligence and make sure that what we are taking from it is correct. But it can be used very good to, like, point you in the right direction. One thing that's ChatGPT versus other AI applications. Um, you know, I think about this a lot. Is just like how you interact with them are so different. When I interact with ChatGPT, it's more like talking to a friend rather than like talking to Alexa. I'm giving it commands, and I can say the command correctly, and it can still get it wrong consistently. And you have to be very selective with how you're interacting with a lot of these other AIs versus like ChatGPT. It's it really understands our language a lot better than anything else that I've seen, and that's really where its power is, and how um, it's how it differentiates. God, I can't talk. One thing that's been brought up in chat a lot is security concerns. And as Microsoft integrates it more and you're able to create those sandbox environments, or Microsoft is very devoted to your data, your privacy. So that would, if you're using it for a corporate environment, that is the way you should be utilizing it, is through Microsoft versus like going to the OpenAI webpage. You're giving OpenAI your data if you're going through the webpage. So if you are doing tasks that are related to your job, or even personally using ChatGPT, be aware of the information that you're putting into their webpage, because you don't have access to, you don't have control over it at that point, because um, yeah, because it's kind of the same thing as like when you Google search something, Google now has that information of what you're searching. So just be aware of the information you're putting into it. So if you are trying to do something very specific, make sure to use dummy data if you're utilizing the website right now. As these things get more built out and are available through Microsoft, through Azure or Office 365, we are going to get a lot of those security built into it just through Microsoft and what it's trying to do. So it's going to get better, but right now, just be very careful about what data you're inputting into it. And kind of something else that's been said a few times is, what are we automating? Not every task should be automated or be AI driven. We talk a lot about customer service because those chatbots, current day chatbots aren't very good, so we can automate that with OpenAI and ChatGPT and kind of make our chatbots better. But that shouldn't be with the intent of completely removing your customer service base. That should just kind of be the front door of your customer service. And it really depends on your company. Like, we here at Trusted Tech Team really pride ourselves that when you call in, you are reaching a person as fast as possible. So that's not something that we're going to automate, and we know it. But you can automate other parts, and figuring out for your particular company, what parts do you want to hand off to AI? Where do you get the most value for the least amount of effort in these things, right? Because you can spend a lot of time building a platform and then realize, oh, this doesn't actually solve that much of my problems. So just realizing those kind of things is really important.
Yeah. So like with dummy data, for example, you could theoretically um, have a system where your dummy data is structured a certain way so that once you get the results from the prompt, you can easily replace them. And that can be done with the API. For example, let's say you're connected to OpenAI's API and you have your custom app that does things for you. You can just simply have your own like dummy data over there, and then you'd have a process essentially that replaces that dummy data automatically. I would recommend joining the waitlist for ChatGPT, at least GPT-4. I think GPT-4, there's a waitlist for that API right now.
Yep.
I would join the waitlist for that. I'm not sure when Microsoft is going to have a waitlist for Copilot 365. I don't know if you guys heard about that. But I would join the waitlist for that as well. I think a lot of the security concerns, like Blake said here, are going to be resolved as soon as we have Microsoft Copilot 365. And then we're also waiting for the multimodal AI, and that's Chad's been telling me all about it. And I don't know, Chad, you're making it sound scary. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, I mean, multimodal AI, the code name for it's Skynet.
That's not good.
No, it's a little inside joke, but the multimodal AI is the idea that within like one interaction. So if I go to ChatGPT or OpenAI's website right now, and I engage with the AI bot, I can feed it text, images, or videos and ask it to, morph it on demand, and it'll be able to do that. So you're talking, if it goes as planned, the idea is you'd be able to feed it a script, text, images, and you can create your own animated TV show, in a heartbeat. It has the ability to do that. And from what they say, currently we're working with um, a couple billion parameters, I believe, is what is built into OpenAI's model for the language model, for how much it's been able to ingest and put on the limits for what it can source for its answers. By the time multimodal comes out, it'll be anywhere from 20 to 100 times more parameters. So uh, when you're already talking billions as your starting point, being able to exponentially increase in a small amount of time leads the door open for many, many opportunities. It's going to be able to rewrite its own code, hence the Skynet piece. So the idea is that, if anyone's ever seen the Great Terminator movie, this computer gets access to the internet, starts teaching itself, and decides it knows what its own destiny should be, and its creators are not the people to decide that anymore. Um, Obviously, I'm sure they'll be as careful as they can building in parameters to prevent that. But the idea is very cool to me. I like the idea that you're essentially going to have a buddy in your computer every time you go to work that's going to help you get tasks done as efficiently as possible. So you kind of become limited only by your own knowledge and your skills to essentially ask a computer how to produce for you. How do you phrase the right questions? How do you look at what the end goal is, and how do you approach, getting there? Am I using the right application to get the job done? Does the computer is it able to analyze that for me? There's examples of people using OpenAI already where they gave it $100 and they said, "Use me as your liaison in the physical world and show me how to make the most money as fast as possible." Well, I don't know if it was the fastest possible option, but the bot did do all the research to have him create a website. It taught him how to lay it out, where to buy the domain, how to register, everything that has to do with the website to a store. And what he ended up doing was following the advice, and it told him to make a eco-friendly green living website that did product aggregation. It went out to the internet, looked at different products, and told him the best one to host on his website with ad links, to other customers' stores. So he wasn't actually selling the product; he was just redirecting traffic. Well, within about a week of this, out of the $100 that he initially took in between building out the website, time and labor, advertising, he spent about 65 of the initial $100 investment. And after 7 days, his account had about $1,300 in it, just from AdSense or whatever ad platform was driving people to go and purchase through his website. And all he had to do is you know talk with the OpenAI. He got all the instructions step by step on what to do. He just had to carry out the actions. and he was able to 10x his money in a matter of a week with just minimal amount of effort. So
Kind of takes me back to when the internet first came out, right? And people were started building websites, and it's like, yeah, you can generate a lot of money with your website. And we had the dot-com bubble, and then things stabilized, obviously, with the technology, and now we have our internet, and it kind of feels like that right now. All right, but for the interest of time, we are going to jump to the Q&As. We have a question here that's really interesting. What's the best way to avoid the made-up answers? A lot of time can be wasted verifying that the information ChatGPT has provided is actually incorrect. An example I had was asking if a particular piece of software had a feature to accomplish a task. What do you guys think?
So I think, right now, if you're utilizing ChatGPT, you're on the ChatGPT model. As we move to the 4 model, I think the answers you're going to get are going to get a lot better. So I think there's going to be less use case for validation. But as I mentioned before, it is still in its infancy. So just, doing a quick verification, there's there's not a lot of great ways to like get that, really there's not a one answer for everything on how to best verify the answers, but just making sure that you're asking as specific questions as you can, making sure that you're tying, if you're looking for like a solution, making sure that you're asking specifically about the, the make and the model, what application you're using. The more specific your questions get, the better answers you're going to get. The same way as like a Google search.
Yeah, you could also ask it where it sorts its information. A lot of times it'll give you references. Sometimes it'll give you references that are broken. It'll give you links, and
mhm.
I've checked some of those links, and it's like, oh wow, all right,
Yep.
this is not. And you can also go there and read more. So sometimes it helps take you to places. In a way, it can act also like a search engine,
Mhm.
but it's definitely it gives you more context. Another question we have is how scalable and performant is ChatGPT? With so many folks trying it out and companies announcing that they're integrating it into their products, what confidence can we have that it will be available when we need it? It's a good question.
I mean, I don't work on the back end for OpenAI or Microsoft, so I can't give you a definitive answer of what their, what their infrastructure footprint looks like. But the idea that as the usage of it expands, that it's not going to be able to scale and meet demand. I would just look at Microsoft and Azure as a whole, because I would imagine that's a lot of what the platform and its scalability is going to be based off of. And they have a great track record. The uptime is up there with the 4 to 5 nines. So you're talking, it's a pretty reliable tool to use even right now, and it's not considered, at least GPT-4 is not considered GA. It's not released to the masses. But my experience with 3 and 3.5, over the course of since it's been released and I've been using it, it's been months. It was very, very rare right at the initial launch in which I had issues getting access to the service. But since then, it's been pretty reliable between the hours of 8 to 5.
Also, when most of the outages that we've seen with ChatGPT are related to the free, you go to their webpage and you're trying out. If you have one of access to the 4 model, which is a paid service, there's not that many outages when you're actually paying money for it. Just like everything in life, right?
Except that one week where you just couldn't log in. Where when everyone was able to see other people's chats, that was hilarious.
Yeah, and like we've said, it's still in its infancy. It's only going to get better. Chad mentioned it. Azure has up to 5 nines of availability. Like as Chat integrates more with Azure and Azure's backend infrastructure, it's only going to get better.
Yeah. All right. So we do have a question. Is it going to be free? Is Microsoft 365 going to be free or for current free for current Microsoft license
I think he
holders, or
means
is it an
the
add-on?
Copilot.
This is Copilot.
We don't have news on that. My guess is that certain licenses will have it bundled in. But I would imagine most case scenarios, just because of what it is and how demanding and new it is, it's going to be an add-on. Eventually down the line as it gets ironed out and fully, you know, fully developed, I think you'll see it included in a lot of licensing. There'll be, different tiers of it. That's my guess. Um, but as far as the information that we have from Microsoft themselves, we just know that the testing slash preview phase for it is coming out in the next few months, and during the testing essentially over the summer. As soon as that is concluded, you're talking the GA release is supposed to be a month or two after that. So their timeline, from what we've been told, is somewhere between August and September. You're going to start seeing the Copilot button exist within the web applications and the desktop productivity apps.
Do we have a minute to outline what Copilot is going to be? Because we haven't talked about it yet.
Yes, absolutely. So it's going to be integrated into all of your 365 apps. It's going to use Microsoft Graph. So essentially, let's say you have Outlook, right? And you get an email from your team members. And you want to respond to that email. The way you do it right now is you just respond. It will help you generate responses based on the context of that email thread and what you want it to respond initially. So we don't have clear examples on what that looks like. We just know that that's what it's going to do. My guess is going to do it kind of like how Jasper AI is doing it right now, where you have an extension and then it kind of asks you like a preemptive question, like, how do you want to respond to this? And you'll just give it like a few keywords and then it'll write the response for you. That's like one example from Outlook. It's also going to be integrated into Microsoft Word. So now you start with just like a blank document. If you want to write something, you could give it a few hints on what you're trying to do, and then it'll give you some starting points. And that's going to help a lot with any creative content or something of the sort. Same thing with Excel. They're going to have it integrated into basically all of your 365 suite. And then I think it's going to be integrated also in Teams and Power Platform, the thing that you touched on, Blake. So that's going to be exciting. Microsoft is teasing it a lot on their website, so I would go there to like read a full explanation of what it is and what it does. But it's definitely going to make things a lot faster.
One use case that they outlined in their video that I'm super excited for is the drafting a proposal based on your meeting notes from Teams, from like Teams transcription. I'm super excited about that and just seeing how accurate it's going to be and how well it's just like taking that first 90% of writing it and then you're just doing the actual review. So it is going to elevate users.
Yeah.
I'm laughing at Scott's so it's like Clippy.
Clippy on steroids. But hopefully it'll stay with us. It'll actually be useful. Sorry, Clippy. One question that gets tossed around a lot is if you're hiring someone to implement AI into your systems, how would you do that? Like, what skill sets would you look for a professional of that type?
I think at the end of the day, you're still going to want a professional who understands machine learning and understands how that data set is pulled. Because if you're doing stuff custom, you're gonna have to add your own data set on top of it, and so you need to have somebody who's aware of like machine learning and those type of systems as your base. Some of all of this ChatGPT is new, but you're going to be tying in a lot of things that we're already using for how we develop products and how we utilize the capabilities of machine knowledge, right?
Agreed.
Sweet. All right. Awesome stuff, guys. Let's move on to the next thing here. We are going to announce the winner of our $500 Amazon gift card. Are you guys ready? All right, drum roll. Virtual drum roll. All right, the winner is Damon Theus. Damon, please reach out to us via our LinkedIn page. If you go to Trusted Tech Team, you'll see a contact us form. It says sales, looking for a personalized cloud solution, contact sales. Just send us an email there and we'll reach out to you with your prize. And then Also, this goes for everybody. If you have anything, any concern with your Microsoft 365 or Azure, you want lower pricing, better service, definitely reach out to us. Our email is microsoft365@trusttechteam.com, and I'm going to drop it in the comment section on our LinkedIn event. And awesome. Any last thoughts, you guys?
I mean, I just I don't want to be too ahead of the curve right here, but I do see it as there's going to be people with jobs that work with AI, and there's going to be people that don't. And there will be a stark contrast, just like like you said, the advent of the internet. It's like imagine owning a business now with no internet. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
and if your boss is living under a rock and hasn't heard about this, you can either be, the star and let him know, or you can take the other approach and utilize it yourself and make your life easier. So there's two ways to take it. But at the end of the day, we're all going to be utilizing this one form or another very shortly, and so just try to get ahead of the curve and do your due diligence on learning what it all is and how to best implement it.
yeah, definitely.
hmm
Just like any new technology, you're either gonna be one of the people that start using it and get ahead of everybody else, or you're gonna get left behind. But it's definitely interesting times. Awesome stuff, you guys. Thank you so much, Blake and Chad, for
Of course.
everything. You just gave a lot of great insights for everybody here.
hmm
And thank you everyone who joined us. Definitely stay tuned. If you like this, if you found that this is useful, definitely follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. We are going to be active there. And
Yeah, there was a question. Do we have a recording of this?
yes, so the recording we will email you. If you're subscribed to us, we will email you. We will also publish the link on the LinkedIn page so that you can have access on demand, essentially.
Perfect.
Great stuff. All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you,
Have a great
guys.
rest of your day.